If someone had told you a year ago that Prince William, future king, global icon, father, husband, and the man many believed would usher in a new era of monarchy, would one day stand before a silent room and utter the words, "I will not survive this," you probably would have laughed it off, or shrugged, or assumed it was another tabloid headline cooked up for shock value. But this time, in this story, it wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a PR misunderstanding. And it definitely wasn't a joke. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It was a moment that froze an entire nation. Picture it, a dimly lit room inside Kensington Palace. A single lamp casting a warm glow over William's face. Reporters holding their breaths. Palace staff standing still, hands clasped. And William, prince, father, husband, looking the world straight in the eye. Not with fear, not with panic, but with an unexpected calm that made the moment 10 times more emotional. And he said it, clear, crisp, final. "This diagnosis means I will not survive." That's where our journey begins. And as we explore this fictional, deeply emotional narrative, packed with twists, relatable moments, humor to soften the heavy blows, and the type of storytelling that keeps you reading until the very last word, you'll find yourself asking, how does anyone prepare to say goodbye? How does a future king accept a fate he never chose? And what happens when a man who carried an entire nation must finally ask for help himself? Let's dive into this emotional, unpredictable, and unforgettable story. You know how people always say, bad news never comes announced. Well, this one came announced. Loudly, rudely, and at the worst possible moment. Prince William had just wrapped up a charity visit. A visit where he was smiling, joking with kids, tossing a football, and radiating that people's prince energy that kept the world in love with him. He looked fine, healthy, strong, untouchable even, like the kind of man who beats colds in 24 hours and still shows up early for meetings. Then came the phone call that would flip his world upside down. His doctor, soft voice, too soft, a request to come in as soon as possible. Never a good sign. William, being William, brushed it off at first. Royal schedule, meetings, charity initiatives, family dinner. Life doesn't stop just because someone sounds somber on the phone. But something tugged at him. A quiet instinct, the same one that once told him to comfort a crying child mid-walkabout. The same one that nudged him to propose to Kate when the world least expected it. He went in. He sat down. And then came the diagnosis. Not a mild condition. Not a manageable long-term illness. Not even one of those, you'll need treatment, but you'll be fine scenarios. No, it was a tragic diagnosis, rare, aggressive, and unexpected. One that came with the devastating line, "We will do everything we can, but survival is unlikely." Pause for a moment. Imagine being told that. Imagine hearing your life measured in probabilities. Not months, not years, but chances. How do you react? Do you laugh? Cry? Get angry? Stay quiet? Run? William did something no one expected. He thanked the doctor. Who does that? Someone trained since childhood to remain composed even while the sky falls. And as he stepped outside, the cool London breeze hit his face like a bucket of cold, merciless water. That's it, he whispered to himself. His life, duties, responsibilities, legacy, suddenly felt fragile. But the real question was waiting at home. How do you tell your family? And that's where the story gets emotional. What do you even say to the people who expect you to stay strong forever? Back at Kensington Palace, Kate was in the nursery helping the kids with their after-school chaos. Legos everywhere, backpacks half open, floor drawings that definitely weren't part of the planned activity. Normal life. The kind William loved. He walked in quietly, which was unusual. Kids always ran to him. Kate always noticed him instantly. But this time, she sensed something was off. "Will?" she said softly. He tried to smile. It didn't land. Kate's eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in fear. Because she knew. She always knew. When he took her hand, she felt the tremor. And that's when William, who faced cameras, crowds, political tensions, international crises, finally broke. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but the kind of quiet heartbreak that collapses a room. Kate listened. Her face went pale. Her hand tightened. Every mother, every wife, every partner reading this knows that moment. When the world no longer feels safe. When the person you rely on suddenly becomes the one who needs you. How long? She whispered. They don't know. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. But Kate Middleton is not the kind of woman who collapses quietly. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, straightened her back. Then she asked the most unexpected question. What do you need, William? Not. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Are you scared? What will we do? But, what do you need? Because when pain hits home, love does the talking. And William said something that shattered her heart. I don't know how to say goodbye. This was not just a royal crisis. This was a human one. A husband, a father, a man. And the weight of the goodbye started pressing on both of them. But here's where things get even more emotional. When a man finally admits he needs help, the real journey begins. You'd think that bad news inside the palace would be handled quietly, with careful planning and whispered conversations behind centuries-old doors. But no, this diagnosis was a bomb no one could deactivate. As soon as senior staff heard whispers of medical crisis, phones started buzzing, emails started firing, and meetings were booked faster than you can say royal protocol. Some wanted to keep everything secret. Some insisted transparency was the new royal standard. Some panicked about public reaction. Some worried about the monarchy's future. One official even asked, "What about royal duties next month?" And William, overhearing the question, replied with piercing calm, "Next month isn't guaranteed for me." The room froze. For the first time in decades, the royal household was not facing a scandal, a media fight, or a public relations disaster. It was facing mortality. How do you prepare for a future without the future king? That question haunted them. And while palace officials scrambled for damage control, William did something entirely different, something that would change the storyline forever. He decided to step away from everything, not out of fear, but out of clarity. He wanted to spend every moment where it mattered, with his family, with his children, with the people he loved. No cameras, no ceremonies, no obligations, just life. But the palace had one more problem. What do you tell the world? And that's when William made a decision that shocked everyone in the room. If you thought the diagnosis was emotional, this is where things go from heartbreaking to unforgettable. William insisted on addressing the public himself. Palace staff begged him to wait. PR advisors urged caution. Medical advisors reminded him of stress risks. He refused. This isn't about politics, he said. It's about honesty. And so, they prepared the room. A simple setting. Warm lighting. No royal banners or glittering backdrops. Just William and the truth. When he stepped in front of the cameras, he didn't look like the future king. He looked like a man with something to say before time ran out. My diagnosis, he began, has changed everything. Silence everywhere. Living rooms, offices, phones held in trembling hands across the world. While I have always carried my duties with pride, this is not a battle I am likely to survive. There it was. The line that stunned millions. Not whispered, not hidden. Spoken clearly, bravely, painfully. He continued, I want to spend whatever time I have left with those who know me not as the Prince of Wales, but simply as William. Reporters cried. Viewers cried. Even palace staff watching from the hallway cried. Because when truth is spoken softly, it hits twice as hard. And just when the world thought the speech was ending, William added one more line. I hope you will understand. It wasn't a command, not a royal decree. Just a human plea. A man asking for space, compassion, and time. But of course, nothing emotional ends cleanly. Because right after the speech, something unexpected happened. Something that changed the course of the story. A leak. A rumor. A twist. Something that made the world question everything they had just heard. Within hours of the speech, social media exploded. Some believed him. Some doubted him. Some speculated. Some questioned palace transparency. Then came the most shocking rumor. What if the diagnosis wasn't natural? Some insiders whispered about stress. Others whispered about an earlier unreported medical event. Some tabloids pushed conspiracy theories. And one notable leak suggested something darker. A previous medical scan, months ago, showed concerning signs, but someone inside the palace delayed further testing. Was it negligence? Miscommunication? Political maneuvering? No one knew. But the rumor spread like wildfire. And as the world debated, William stayed silent. Choosing peace. Choosing family. choosing presence over public noise. But silence doesn't last forever, especially when the truth demands space to breathe. Even though William insisted he wasn't doing a public farewell tour, something magical happened. People started showing up everywhere he went. Not just fans, not just supporters, families, elders, veterans, children, people whose lives he touched through his charities. They didn't ask for photos. They didn't ask for signatures. They simply wanted to say, "Thank you." And William, true to himself, stopped for everyone. He held hands, listened to stories, shared little jokes, comforted crying strangers. He became more human than ever before, more real, more grounded, more vulnerable. And every time someone asked, "Are you scared?" he answered, "Sometimes, but I am grateful more than anything." And that gratitude was contagious. People began posting messages. "You inspired me. You helped my family. You gave us hope. You made us feel seen." In a world full of noise, this felt pure. But with each appearance, with each smile, with each handshake, people noticed he was getting quieter, slower, more tired. And then came the final goodbye, the moment that would define this entire fictional story. One crisp morning, the palace announced a final statement from William. No cameras this time. No lights. No dramatic setup. Just a letter. Written in William's own hand. It read, "Thank you for letting me serve. Thank you for letting me grow. Thank you for letting me be human. I do not fear the end, because I have lived a life filled with love, purpose, and meaning. Please take care of my family and each other. Goodbye for now." William. Short, simple, heart-punching. And with that, you could almost hear a nation exhale. The man who spent his life preparing to be king was now preparing to be remembered. But here's the twist. Goodbye didn't mean gone. Goodbye meant legacy. Goodbye meant impact. Goodbye meant reflection. And in that reflection lies the real heart of this story. So what do we take away from this fictional, emotional roller coaster story? It's not about royalty, not about palaces, not about power, not even about tragedy. It's about humanity. It's about the reality that no matter who you are, prince, parent, student, worker, life can change in a heartbeat. It's about gratitude. It's about presence. It's about choosing love over duties when it matters most. It's about asking deeper questions. If you had limited time, who would you choose to spend it with? What truths would you finally speak? What fears would you put down? What joys would you cherish more boldly? These are the real royal lessons. And now, here's your moment, the part where your voice matters. What part of William's fictional journey hit you the hardest? What would you say or do if you were in his shoes, or Kate's? What would your goodbye look like? And who deserves to